Her blood wasn't just red. It was glowing, a neon crimson that screamed one terrifying word: murder. Dr. Autumn Klein was a genius at saving lives, but she couldn't see the poison being served by the man she slept next to every single night. April 17th. Pittsburgh is quiet, but inside a luxury home, a nightmare is unfolding. Dr. Autumn Klein, a world-class neurologist, walks through her door. She is tired. She is successful. And in exactly 6 minutes, she will be fighting for her life. Suddenly, a soothed Autumn hits the floor, her body convulsing, her lungs screaming for air. Her husband, Robert Ferrante, calls 911. His voice is calm. Too calm, maybe. The paramedics rush her to the ER, the very same hospital where she works. But as the doctors draw her blood, the room goes silent. The blood in the syringe isn't dark. It's vivid, shocking, cherry red. In the medical world, that color is a death sentence. It means the cells have stopped breathing. It means cyanide. 3 days later, Autumn is gone. The police are baffled. There was no suicide note, no history of depression, and nitrogen monoxide poison found in the house. So, how did a lethal dose of cyanide get into the system of a top-tier doctor? The detectives look at Robert, the grieving husband, a famous scientist himself. He claims she was taking supplements, a simple powder to help them have another baby. But as they dig into his search history, they find a dark trail of digital breadcrumbs. Was it a tragic mistake, or was it a cold precision kill? The hunt for the truth has just begun. The police started digging, and what they found was not a grieving husband. Robert Ferrante, a respected research specialist at the same hospital, a man who understood biology and chemistry. Oddly, Robert had ordered a shipment of cyanide to his lab just 2 days before his wife collapsed. Why? For research, he claimed. But the detectives weren't buying it. They checked the couple's home, every cabinet, every drawer, searching for the poison. Nothing. The house was clean. Too clean. But then they looked at Autumn's computer. Private documents. Hidden files. A digital cry for help. Autumn wasn't happy. She was trapped. Robert was pushing her hard to have a second child. He was obsessed, insisting she'd take a specific supplement, creatine, to help with fertility. Every morning, he would prepare it for her. Every morning, she would drink it, trusting the man she loved. Was the cyanide hidden in the very powder meant to give them life? Detectives found Robert's fingerprints on a cyanide bottle in his office. But there was more. Robert was paranoid. He thought Autumn was having an affair. He thought she was going to leave him, taking his daughter and his reputation with her. He didn't just want a child. He wanted control. And if he couldn't control her, no one would have her. The perfect marriage was a cage, and the bars were made of LIES and lethal chemicals. But how do you prove a murder when the weapon has been disposed of? The investigators were about to find a shocking digital trail that Robert thought he had deleted forever. Robert thought he was smarter than everyone. After all, he was a scientist. But every killer leaves a trail, even if it's invisible. Detectives seized his computer, and what they found was a roadmap to murder. His search history wasn't about medicine or saving lives. He had been Googling how to detect cyanide in a corpse. Can cyanide be found after cremation? And the lethal dose of poison. He wasn't just researching, he was planning. But the most chilling discovery, Robert had sent a series of emails to himself, pretending to be someone else. He was trying to create an alibi, a fake story to blame his wife's death on her own health issues. He told the police she was stressed, that she was taking too many supplements, that she was unstable, but the evidence said otherwise. Witnesses from the hospital came forward. They hadn't seen the couple speak to each other in months, even though they worked in the same building. The silence between them was deafening. Then, the bombshell. A lab assistant remembered Robert asking for special access to the cyanide locker, claiming it was for an urgent experiment. That experiment was his wife's life. The police finally had it. They moved in for the arrest. As the handcuffs clicked, Robert didn't cry. He didn't scream. He stayed cold, just like the poison he used. But even with the evidence, a trial was coming, and Robert had one last trick up his sleeve to try and walk free. Would the jury believe the grieving scientist, or would the ghost of Autumn Klein finally get justice? The courtroom was silent. Robert Ferrante sat there, stone-faced, wearing the mask of a grieving husband. His lawyers argued it was a medical anomaly, a freak accident, a heart attack. But then the prosecution played their ace. They showed the jury the timing, the exact minute Robert ordered the cyanide, and the exact minute Autumn collapsed. The overlap was chilling. He didn't just kill her, he experimented on her. He used his scientific knowledge, not to heal, but to exterminate. The jury didn't take long. Guilty. First-degree murder. The sentence? Life in prison, without the possibility of parole. As he was led away in chains, the world finally saw the monster behind the microscope. A man who thought he could commit the perfect crime because he was smarter than the law. But he forgot one thing. The truth has a way of leaking out, like a drop of bright, cherry red blood. Dr. Autumn Klein is gone, but her story remains a haunting reminder that sometimes the person holding the cure is the one administering the poison. Be careful who you trust, because even in the brightest homes, the darkest secrets are waiting to be swallowed. The case of the cyanide doctor is closed, but for Robert Ferrante, the nightmare has only just begun. They thought the woods were empty. They were dead wrong. The moon was a pale sliver in the sky, casting long, twisted shadows across the Blackwood Trail. It was supposed to be a quiet night, just Mark and Sarah, far away from the city lights, far away from everyone. They parked deep in the thicket. The engine died, and the silence swallowed them whole. Sarah felt a chill, a cold finger sliding down her spine. "Mark, maybe we should go," she whispered. But Mark just laughed. He stepped out of the car to clear his head, to be alone for just a second. "Don't lock the door," he joked, his voice fading into the dark. 5 minutes passed. The silence grew heavy. Sarah checked her watch. The ticking sound was like a hammer in her ears. Tick, tick, tick. She looked out the window. The trees looked like claws, reaching for the sky. "Mark?" she called out. No answer. Only the wind, whistling through the rusted metal of the old car. She squinted into the darkness. There, near the oak tree, a shape, standing perfectly still. It wasn't Mark. It was too tall, too thin. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Her hand reached for the lock, but her fingers froze. From the roof of the car, she heard it. A faint, rhythmic sound. Squeak. 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 Something was up there. And it wasn't human. Sarah held her breath, paralyzed. Squeak. Squeak. The sound was rhythmic, like something heavy, swinging in the wind. She looked at the rearview mirror. The tall, thin shadow near the trees was gone. "Mark, please. This isn't funny," she whimpered. But the only response was that damned sound. Squeak. Suddenly, a sood. The car rocked, just a little. Something had touched the roof. Sarah's eyes darted to the window. A pale face, or maybe just a trick of the moonlight, appeared for a split second, and then it vanished. She lunged for the keys. Her hands were shaking, the metal cold against her skin. She fumbled, dropped them, and let out a choked SOB. The darkness outside felt like it was pressing against the glass, watching her, waiting. She grabbed the keys from the floorboard. Her fingers brushed against Mark's jacket, still lying on the passenger seat. He never came back. He wouldn't just leave her. She shoved the key into the ignition. The engine groaned, a pathetic, weak sound in the vast wilderness. Squeak. Squeak. The sound was faster now, agitated. She looked up at the ceiling of the car. The fabric was sagging, as if someone was pressing down from above. "Get away," she screamed. She turned the key. The engine roared to life. The headlights cut through the dark, revealing nothing but twisted branches. She slammed the car into drive. She floored the gas. The tire spun, screaming against the dirt. But the car didn't move. It jerked forward, then snapped back, like a dog on a leash. The engine whined in protest. Smoke began to rise from the hood. She was trapped, and the squeaking turned into a wet, scraping sound. Scrape. Scrape. Right above her head, the engine roared, a mechanical scream in the night. But the car stayed rooted, like a predator, holding its prey by the throat. Sarah's breath came in ragged, shallow gasps. Her eyes were fixed on the rearview mirror. There, in the red glow of the taillights, a rope, thick and frayed, stretched tight from the bumper. It led upward, into the canopy of the ancient oak tree, taut, vibrating with a sickening tension. Squeak. The sound was sharper now, metallic, like bone, grinding against steel. Suddenly, a hand slapped against the driver's side window. Sarah shrieked. She scrambled to the passenger side, her heart ready to burst. It wasn't a hand. It was a smear of dark fluid, slowly sliding down the glass. Then, the shadow returned. The tall, thin figure emerged from behind the tree. It didn't walk. It glided. It stopped 10 feet away, just standing there. In the flicker of the dying headlights, it had no face, only a void, where features should be. Sarah fumbled for her phone. NO signal, 0 bars. The figure raised a long, skeletal finger. It pointed, not at her, but at the ROF. Squeak. Scrape. Thud. Something heavy shifted above her head. A wet, rhythmic dripping started on the windshield. Drip, drip, drip. It wasn't rain. It was warm. Sarah looked up at the moon through the sunroof. A pair of boots, tattered and worn, were swinging back and forth. They were just inches away from the glass, scraping the top of the car. "Mark?" she whispered, her voice breaking into a sob. The figure in the woods tilted its head, and then it smiled, a wide, impossible, toothless grin. It started to run, not away, but directly toward the car. The figure was blurry, a streak of darkness against the trees, closing the distance fast. Sarah scrambled back to the driver's seat. Her shoes slipped on the floor, wet with that strange, thick fluid. "Go, please, just go." She screamed at the engine. She slammed the gas again. The car jerked violently. The rope behind her groaned, stretching to its absolute breaking point. From the roof, a crack. The metal was denting, bowing inward under a massive weight. Suddenly, a face appeared, upside down, pressed against the windshield. It wasn't the figure from the woods. It was Mark. His eyes were wide, bloodshot, staring directly into hers, but they were empty. Life was long gone. His mouth was open, in a silent, eternal scream. The rope was tied around his ankles. He was the weight, holding her back. Squeak. Scrape. His head slammed against the glass. Sarah's world turned into a blur of tears and terror. The shadow from the woods was now inches away. She could see its hands, long, gray, reaching for the door handle. K. The lock turned. She didn't do it. Mark didn't do it. The shadow had the keys. From the outside, the door creaked open. The cold forest air rushed in, smelling of damp earth and copper. Sarah lunged for the passenger door. Locked. She kicked at the glass. Nothing. A hand cold as ice, grabbed her ankle. It started to pull. She grabbed the steering wheel, her knuckles white. No. But the grip was too strong. She was being dragged into the dark, under the shadow of the swinging boots. Above her, Mark's body swung one last time. Squeak. And then, the rope snapped. The rope snapped. Like a whip, Mark's body hit the hood with a sickening, heavy thud. The car rocked. The weight was gone. The leash was cut. Sarah didn't look. She couldn't look. She kicked the figure's hand away with every ounce of strength she had. She grabbed the door, slammed it shut, and locked it. Her foot hit the gas. This time, the car leaped forward. She flew down the dirt path, branches scratching the paint like fingernails. She didn't stop for the curves. She didn't stop for the shadows. Behind her, in the rearview mirror, the tall figure stood in the middle of the road, watching her, not moving, just watching. She drove until she saw the lights of a gas station. Bright, neon, safe. She slammed on the brakes, the tire screaming to a halt. She sat there for a moment. The only sound was her own ragged breath. Then, she remembered the THUD on the hood. She slowly, trembling, looked out the windshield. Mark was there, tangled in the rope, looking back at her through the glass, his face frozen in that horrifying stare. But there was something else, tucked into Mark's cold, stiff hand. Sarah's eyes widened. She leaned closer. It was a note, scrawled in messy, dark ink. She stepped out of the car, her legs like jelly. She pulled the paper from his fingers. It read, "You are next." Suddenly, the gas station lights flickered. One by one, they went dark. A cold breeze blew through the parking lot, and from the roof of the station, she heard it again. Squeak. 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 She wasn't safe. She had brought the nightmare home. The darkness closed in, and this time, there was nowhere left to run.